Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Season 9, Episode 24, The Ending of the End. Part 1. If I need to give you a summary of this episode, I got nothing. So, I've got some notes. I do apologize for being late. I have been very busy this morning. I actually got up a little bit early and have been working on the finale video, or rather finale graphics, might be a better way to put that, for the better part of the last however many hours, and barely got started with actually watching the episode in time. Never mind actually doing, a little bit of research, as I often do. I hope you'll enjoy. I spent a lot of time on things that look pretty bad. Hi, Chrysalis. Nice to see you. So my first thought upon watching this was how irritated I was at how easy it was to convince the other ponies in order to be like, oh my god, them Earth ponies, they're all alike, you know what I mean? But then I started thinking about it for a bit. So I'm going to retain some of my irritation, but not all of it. The sum of my irritation is the fact that they could have built this up more. This could, and frankly should, have been a background element of several previous episodes leading up to this moment. Little tidbits of someone mentioning the crops going bad, or maybe there's a bit of a weather issue. It's like, how are we ready for the thing? Well, we were going to do this, but then there was a weird spat of weather. Huh. Well, whatever, we'll do this thing, and so forth and so on, right? In other words, there could have been background elements in order to try and get across the idea that this didn't just happen yesterday, but has been a slowly building element, a slowly building plot that they've been doing pretty much ever since the last time they showed up on camera, right? So that's point A. That's the thing that bothers me. But the reason it doesn't bother me is because if they had done that, I wouldn't have any issues with this. There's an old saying, it's easy to be a saint in paradise. What that actually means is ideals untested tend to be unproven, statistically speaking, with regards to how we think and how we operate and how we feel. So, you've got someone who, has no problem with other people because it's never occurred to them to have problems with other people in one direction or the other. But if you told that person, hey, that issue you've been having, it's actually because of those other people over there, they're probably going to be more likely to believe that than not. If for no other reason than the fact that that idea has never been tested. This is an idyllic society. These people, all things considered, haven't had to deal with racial strife for centuries, because that's what this is. You'll notice that there has been hints of racial tension here and there, or I guess species tension. It's just been really, really tiny little tidbits, and usually doesn't go very far. It's worth noting that even Chancellor, I forget his name, Chancellor Naysay, was someone who was a part of this mentality and was once tested, willing to accept that it was wrong, that he was wrong, and to then reaffirm that strength. And I'm actually hoping he'll have an appearance in the future episodes. Please don't tell him if he doesn't. Yeah, it's funny. A more cynical society will look at this and be like, oh. But my point is, I could buy it. Not fully, a couple points off, but I can buy what's happening here. Then they go ahead and use the bell in order to empower themselves. Yeah, we all kind of saw that one coming. So now they have Grogar's magic. Cool. That's cool. Then Ect subs. Thank you, Ect, very much for a full year of support. You are awesome. Much appreciated. Thank you. I'll put that anniversary sub. Right here. Everyone hold hands. Unless you want me to take the magic by myself. Ah! So it's Pokemon Mystery Dungeon R and SDR. Speaking of which, 93 Dragons Dogma. Thank you, SDR, very much. Always and ever. Much appreciate. Thank you. So yeah, the three are awesome. Great voice acting, great acting. Tyrek is reasonably smart, which is funny considering he prefers not to use his brain. I find something amusing about that, but anyways. So, they go ahead and share the magic. Everything's cool. Cozy Gloom becomes a unicorn. Yeah, that tracks. And then the big reveal happens. Now, I'm going to pause for a moment to talk about how this makes perfect sense. There's a There are multiple competing lines of thought when it comes to creative theory in where you should put your big twist in the work. And everywhere is valid, anywhere in between the band, from the very beginning of the work to the very end of the work to anywhere in between. But general logic tends to boil down to one of three popular positions for the big twist. One is right here. This is about at the 2/3 mark. Thus, you have these things to kind of build up and this thing to pay off. This is a fairly normal approach. Enterprise Season 3. Another is to put it way over here, which the whole point of putting it way over here is to cheat, I'm just going to call it what it is, and force the viewer to go through the whole work to try and figure out what the big twist is. Comic books do this a lot. A lot of modern television does this, and it is to modern television's detriment. But another line of thought is to put it way over here. Now, way over here only works under certain specific circumstances. And in this specific case, it's actually more like, this is more like the way over here kind of a thing. But I mentioned the way over here thing because they kind of pull that here. Because one of the values of putting the twist towards the beginning is rather than spending extra time on the build-up, you spend the extra time on the payoff. You analyze, okay, here's the big twist. But now what? And you spend time in analyzing and dealing with the consequences of that big twist, which is what they do here. So I actually think it works quite well because this is technically both here and here when you consider it. So it was Discord all along. Gonna be honest, didn't actually call that. Which is funny, because in hindsight it really does make absolutely perfect sense. It is 100% in character with Discord since he's been since effectively Season 4. This is also exactly what he just did with Sombra. You know, knowingly, we all know that one. He was the safety net there. Now, what's doubly funny about this is he's obviously extraordinarily used to leaning on his powers. But by what is effectively coincidence, he also has experience not using his powers. Because he's been in that situation before, when he was going up against Chrysalis alongside Trixie and Starlight, all the way back in one of my favorite episodes. I mention that because you'll notice that he accommodates himself to not having his powers much faster here than he did back there, and that makes sense. So, either way, Discord then walks away after listening in on them for a minute to get a little bit more extra intel, smart move, and then immediately tries to rush out to them. And yeah, exactly, Sean, he has always been the GM of this game, but like well, I shouldn't say it this way, but like a good GM, he actually wants his players to succeed. He wants them to earn it, and this is something that's actually emphasized in the following scenes, but he still wants them to succeed. Yeah, and then we cut to the heroes. So what the heroes do is they walk through the area, and there's this really actually wholesome scene with promoting Spike to the Royal Advisor position, which, let's be honest, Spike was going to be the Royal Advisor anyways, but officially and formally acknowledging that is A, a nice gesture on her part, and B, the kind of thing that Spike would absolutely appreciate. Princess Spike, hello. So then they go about the streets and they talk about things. Apparently there's an official marshmallow tasting gown. I love the bit, I don't know if you caught it, where Rarity faints into the fainting couch. That is actually Fluttershy, and she's just like, it's okay. It's okay, I got you. It's just a nice little moment there. Anyways, so this is actually probably the worst part of the episode for me. I have no idea. Real Starter, I didn't find anything about that. Yeah, crops aren't doing well, which will always fuel social tension. The moment food supplies get hit, people get different. That's just fact. That's true now. That's true 2 millennia ago. That's nothing about that has changed, right? So it makes sense that the food crops would be spoiled, and again, I wish they'd hinted at this a little bit better. It makes sense that people are starting to get a little bit but yeah, no, this is the worst part for me because this is a trope I've hated in fiction since the first time I saw it. Captain Picard shows up on the bridge and says, "All right, screw 'em! Fire all torpedoes at that peaceful envoy." And everyone says, is Picard, should he do that? Oh, well, whatever. Boop! And they all hit the fire button and destroy the thing. And then later on it's like, what? Picard was being mind-controlled? You know the trope. It's when someone is acting sufficiently out of character in a setting which has mind control and shapeshifters and all sorts of other things that can accommodate that. And everyone's just kind of like, shrug. No one seems to think anything is up with all the people frigging out all over the place. In fact, it takes until Tyrek actually telling them to their faces that they realize that something is actually up here. This is, let's be clear with ourselves for just a second, pretty stupid. And it irritates me, and that's it. That's all I have to add to that. It irritates me that it takes them so long. And they keep hitting the note, too. Like, they go down the area, and it's abandoned, and then they go in a little bit further, and they see, oh my gosh, there's no food here. I can't buy my thread from this person. This person over here doesn't even want to interact with me. The guard keeps being bigoted towards Applejack, and everyone's just like, it's whatever. It's whatever. It's whatever. Don't buy it. And it's badly written, and let's just move on. Yeah, I know, right, Act? Yeah, they chalk it up to attention from change in power. No. Regardless, it is the worst and arguably only badly written part of the whole episode. And did you notice it takes up a sufficient chunk of time to probably have been padding? 22 minutes ago, Triaxia. Probably been filler. It was probably just them, you know, shoot, we need to stretch out the episode a little bit. Okay, we'll make this section a little bit longer because it's the only section which doesn't have pacing to it. Did you notice that too? Did you notice that this whole section has actually bad pacing? Because the rest of the episode is actually extraordinarily well paced. The tempo and timing of events is actually very tight, and there's a really great beat to it. And then this section just kind of meanders. So they probably were running short, and they probably struck it out. So, okay, cool, whatever. Moving on. This then leads to Discord. Now, Discord actually managed to walk there. I love how awful he looks and how pained he is. Fluttershy's like, oh my god, are you okay? In order to tell them what's going on. Credit to Discord. The fact that he actually walked or probably ran here from wherever that place is actually impressive in its own right. I don't mean to give too much credit to the man, but really, imagine if you don't walk as a normal thing, and now you have to run a marathon from a swamp to a mountaintop or a mountain based, partially up a mountain castle. Please think about that for a minute. I mean, how many of you in real life, no shame intended, would have problems with that? Because I would have problems with that, and I exercise regularly. Of course, I have a bad leg, but still. Anywho, so he manages to walk there, and Spike notices immediately, did you... And this, of course, leads to him mentioning, yeah, so, by the way, explain. This leads to an interesting line. Twilight has a moment of crisis of conscience, or not, crisis of confidence, excuse me. None of our successes were real. And she says it, credit to the actress, the way she says that line, you could just feel her heart sink a little bit. Imagine for a moment, because it's not hard to imagine this, imagine for a moment that you think you're good at something. And then you continue to think you're good at something, and it becomes a normal thing that you're good at something, and then you find out you're actually not good at that thing. I've actually had this happen to me, although not on this scale before, usually something more small tier. Yeah, we only won because Discord let us. And yeah, exactly, we've actually already covered this very topic before, because it's a hell of a topic to cover. Now, this then leads to Discord's rejoinder. I'm probably going to oust myself a little bit here, but I'm 100% with Discord on this one. Well, probably closer to 90% with Discord. Because Discord says something, and I wrote it down. Of course your successes were real. You just had a safety net. Yeah. No, I agree with that completely. There is a psychological difference between having the safety net and having not, especially if you know the safety net is there. But please remember that Twilight and her crew didn't know the safety net was there, so that doesn't even apply here. They actually succeeded at all these things. Just because there was a safety net down at the bottom doesn't mean that your giant trapeze movement up top here was any less impressive. It just means that if you had failed, you wouldn't have died. We actually talked about this when we were talking about the first episode of the series. We were talking about Sombra. I get how Twilight feels, but Discord is correct here. Like, objectively correct. You still did it, especially since you didn't even see that the safety net was there, which is an important factor. To explain what I mean by that in a very stupid way. Let's say that I'm playing a hard video game. Let's say I take a safety save. All the pressure's off. And I usually ace it because all the pressure's off. If I don't have that save, if I think, oh god, if I screw up, I'm going to have to go back and lose all this time and lose all this effort, then I tend to play worse. This is just a demonstrable truth about my own self, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. Knowing the safety net is there does change the psychology involved. That's why I keep emphasizing that they didn't know it was there. So, yeah, exactly. If I saved and didn't realize it, the pressure is still exactly as much as it would be. So let's see here. It does actually irritate me a little bit that Celestia, of all people, gets pissy at him, considering that she herself, on multiple occasions, has basically done this exact same thing. Just kind of let things go badly and let things be awful and said, all right, you deal with it. And been there as a safety net. Just saying. I do agree with Rascor. Discord's overall plan was actually pretty ill thought out, which is funny because he's usually pretty well thought out, but, you know, whatever. Then, of course, listen to what I overheard them saying! Oh, right, okay. Listen to my voice and just use your imagination. That got a grin. I'm gonna be 100%. So, yeah, and then he does his voice act. John Delancey does an impression of the three characters, which is kind of nice. Apparently, now the title of these is the Lame Six in character. That's interesting. Now, I agree with that, Ogre. Now, I will also mention that Ross is absolutely correct. You notice how Celestia spends almost all of her time being upset at this situation. Let's be honest, probably at least in part because she herself has done this and is probably feeling a little bit of that sympathy, guilt, anger, whatever that's actually called. And Luna spends almost the entire time thinking about what to do next because Luna's a very practical person and that's pretty much always been her approach. She did do it better than him. Again, I'm not lying. I'm just saying Celestia, you know, maybe spend a little bit less time being irritable, a little bit more time being constructive, like your sister. Anywho, so, credit where credit is due. Twilight has the crisis of confidence, as she should, but it doesn't last very long, as it should. This is someone who's been through a whole lot of crap, and has gotten through a whole lot of crap, and should be in charge. And yeah, she takes command and gets on top of this pretty quickly. That's good. That's absolutely good. It would have been entirely too easy to have this episode just have her waffle around a little bit. And then, you know, oh god, what do I do? No, instead she's like, okay. Here's what we do. Get a hold of these people. Get a hold of these people. Get a hold of these people. Get on top of this. Get on top of this. Let's go. Good step. Good move. Meanwhile, cuts back. They could be attacking at any moment. And then it cuts back to the three who are still arguing over what to do with the bell. Now, one thing I actually really like, this is very smart on behalf of the writers. So they depowered Discord. Now that's smart, because it removes Discord as a player from the board. It means they can't just fix this, right? The stakes are real. You know, the safety net has been removed. Hang on a second, though. If they take Discord's power, well, then they have Discord's power, so they should be overpowered. How do we do this? Then they remove his power from the board. This scene was absolutely mandatory for the construction of this story, and it's brilliant that they put it in. Because they see what happens to Cozy Glow when she becomes Chaos Glow. And she is ridiculously super powerful. And she can't control it at all. She has absolutely no control over chaos magic, as she shouldn't. Now, this is a bit of a retcon, because Tyrek was able to absorb the chaos magic, and we mentioned that. But I'm actually completely with the idea that this is a good retcon, because remember, retcons are not inherently bad. Sometimes retcons are frankly necessary. If you give me a moment, I have to write down this sub. Thank you, Scruffy looking, very much, as always. And if you happen to know where you want that to go, do please. You know, thank you very much. Now, this could be argued to be not a retcon. We could argue that. But let's ignore that because it doesn't matter. What matters is what the writers have done for this episode, for this sequence of events, is removed the power from the board, which is very important. These three villains are already quite strong. They have Grogar's magic, after all. And they're strong in their own right, regardless of that. So removing Discord's power means they're strong and they're a threat, but if they had Discord's power, this would be over. End game, right? Boom, done, we're gone. So, very smart move. And they do it in an amusing way, because, take it back, take it back, take it back. So, win-win. Good options, good movement, good writing. Who's this one? Nicole, I think, did this one. Maybe, maybe not. Yep, nope, right. Yes, I think it's Nicole. Hang on. Nicole. Yep, Nicole wrote this one, and that kind of tracks. She is an interesting track record as far as writing goes, but it still tracks. I'm still with it. Boop. All right, so we removed the power from the board as we removed Discord from the board, and now they're like, all right, fine. We're going to go do what our thing. So Cozy Glow goes for the direct attack on the castle. Okay, yep, that tracks. I noticed that, Trathan. Okay, cool. Homeworld, you got it, scruffy looking. Thank you again, as always. Yeah, attack everywhere. So Cozy Glow hits the castle first, and then we cut away. Smart move. Because then we cut to Tyrek. Now, Tyrek fights the pillars. And this actually kind of tracks a little bit, because Tyrek smashes his way. It literally just smashes. Just boom. He attacks in the most brute force, open way possible, which makes sense. As much as Tyrek is probably the one who has the best brain of the group, in terms of tactics, in terms of how he fights, he is the most brute force of the group. He doesn't think about his strategy at all. He walks up and smashes things in the face. And you notice that's exactly how he fights. Pure physical power, which then grabs and then grabs. And yeah, he just likes to hit it until it's over. That's his overall strategy. Wham, wham, wham. And it makes perfect sense that at the power level that he's at, he would be able to stand up against the pillars. So it doesn't actually particularly bother me either. So he smashes his way in, does this thing, fight over. But there's two things that really caught my attention about this. The first is the fact that he manages to grab the energy from, and I didn't catch his name. In fact, I didn't catch his name in the middle either. Giant Earth Pony guy. Someone help me out here. Because I can't think of his damn name. Rockhoof. And when he drains the earth magic from Rockhoof, Rockhoof goes back to being a small, relatively weak-looking pony, just like he used to be. That actually makes a huge amount of sense to me, as weird as that probably sounds. And I look at that, I'm like, oh, okay. Because honestly, that magic was probably the only thing that was actually sustaining him at the, let's call it what it is, legendary level of strength that he was. And he was overpowered, like he was strong even for an earth pony. And yeah, that would also explain his depression, too, I agree, when we had that whole, War Vet episode earlier. The only thing I don't like about this is the second thing I noticed, is Star Swirl goes down like a punk. Star Swirl probably isn't that powerful in raw magic, at least not compared to some of the characters we've seen in this show. But he's probably the single most skilled magician that we've seen in the entire show. So him going down that quickly and that effortlessly is a little bit whatever. You'll notice they actually spend very little time on Star Swirl. It's just, boom, he's down. And then we spend more time on Rockhoof and Somnambula than we do on anything else. Either way, Tyrek bodies them. That's definitely a genius bruiser, by the way. And then there's probably my favorite fight of the three that we see. Now, I swear I'm not saying that because Starlight is the best. I'm saying that because it's actually probably one of the most well-constructed of the fight sequences. Starlight versus Chrysalis. So what do we see happen? Let's actually look at this for a second. First thing she's doing, what's the very first thing we see? Evacuating the students down below the school. Get them out of here. Get them away from danger. Rule 1. Smart. And absolutely agreed. What's the second thing we see? Trixie is like, I am the great and powerful escapee, but that's being said as your typical joke. But then there's the glomp. And that one glomp, that one pre-fight hug, actually says so much. Especially the expression. It's just, huh, okay, yep. No words, no explanation, just, yep, nope. Go get him. And then she goes out and fights Chrysalis. What's the third yeah, exactly, Ross. Like I said, that hug says a lot. What's the third thing that we see? First, Starlight tackles Chrysalid, and teleports her away. Gets her away from the school entirely. Again, all of this makes perfect sense and shows that of all of the fights that we see, Starlight, I can't believe I'm saying this, probably thought this out more than anybody else did, which makes a weird amount of sense. No, hear me out for a second. I agree. It's probably somewhere up by the Crystal Empire, and I hope that comes up in episode 2. We'll find out. I haven't seen episode 2 as a reminder. Anyways, while the main 6 certainly had a plan, and they certainly enacted, the person who has the most experience in dueling as a mage of the various characters that we see interacting this is Starlight. It's something that she has done multiple times on camera, is hinted to have done several times off camera. She's also very emotionally charged right now, and is a sorceress who is empowered by her emotions. So this is actually pretty impressive in its own right. Now, the solo duel goes pretty well, and she does actually start to lose, as she should. Chrysalis is stronger than her. So she outthinks her, but it doesn't matter, because Chrysalis is just that much stronger than her. So that sucks, but nevertheless, a good show and a good fight. Back to Cozy Glow. Now, this is... this makes sense in too many ways to me. So I mentioned that Starlight's the only one with a plan. Well, there's kind of an asterisk to that. So Cozy Glow is just sitting there, just bodying all the unicorn guards, which makes sense because the military of this setting has always been pathetic. I hate to admit it, but that is very in character. So, okay, cool. So the military is completely overwhelmed by her, and she's got no issues with that. And then the princesses, who, let's be honest, don't have a lot of practical skill in actually using their powers in a combat scenario. In fact, frankly, I think Twilight is a better duelist than both princesses combined, just by sheer virtue of experience. So they both decide to just go after Cozy up front. And yeah, Twilight is like, wait, hold up, because, she's probably already thought this out, because she has a brain. But either way, the princesses go, and then Cozy Glow drains their magic, and then that's that. This is still smart in its own way, because it removes the princesses from the board as well, if you're paying attention. Or rather, let me actually walk that back. It removes the princesses' powers from the board, without removing the princesses from the board. Yeah, that no was... You could tell that hurt. Remember, at this point, they know there's no safety net. This is important. Before, they thought there was no safety net, but now they have confirmed with total certainty there's no safety net. Remember what I said earlier? If you know you haven't save stated, that pressure, that strain is right there. And yeah, exactly, Ogre. You see exactly what I'm talking about. So the concept is, it's deadlier. It's actually not deadlier, but it certainly feels deadlier than it was before. Because now it's like, So her freaking out over this makes a very strong amount of sense, especially since they just lost their second safety net, as Raskor just mentioned. Then something happens, which is why I added that asterisk to the plan thing. Because the main 6 don't need a plan. They're just that good with each other. The reason I say that's an asterisk is some people argue that really good improv is effectively a plan. It's just a different... It's an inverse plan, right? You can plan everything else out in front, or you can plan everything out as you're going. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this mentality, but it's something I've heard discussed several times. And we see that the main 6 have excellent improv, as they always have, and they manage to outthink, outmaneuver, and outstrengthen the enemy that they're fighting. Yeah, great working under pressure. And yeah, you're absolutely right. This is how you kill a Jedi, right here. You don't walk in with a plan. Well, you either walk in with a really good plan, or you walk in with really good improv, one of the two. So... however you want to think of this, either way, this is why I added that asterisk, because their plan is frankly much better than Starlight's plan. And if you paid attention, their plan is the only one that succeeded. Starlight didn't defeat Chrysalis, but the main 6 did defeat Cozy Glow. And they were literally seconds away from reclaiming the bell and possibly ending all this when the other 2 showed up. That doesn't diminish their success. This is actually good writing in its own right, believe it or not. Because now you've accomplished several objectives as a writer at the same time. You've shown that your heroes are not incompetent. We haven't leaned on the cutscene incompetence problem I have so many issues with. And you've still made them lose. and actually you've increased the stakes while you're at it. So this, and yeah, this is why I mentioned the pacing after we get past the padding part is just fantastic. So they're back in, and oh, okay, this is problematic. And I'm just going to take a moment to absolutely praise the blocking of this scene. They're all hidden in the shield, and the villains take their time to prance and preen and prawn, literally on the shield in some cases and around it, until finally they give their big speech. What's more powerful than friendship? Fear. Crack the shield. And then they say, no, we're united in friendship. Wah ha 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 ha. This is also when they lay out the stuff that I mentioned probably should have happened in the background in previous episodes. That they've been spoiling the crops, casting spells in the background, messing with stuff, and planting whispers. And that they've been doing this for a while. Again, if you showed that on camera, I'd be a lot less bothered by it, because it does make sense in its own right. Then, they obliterate half of Canterlot with one shot. Just as a show of raw power. What I really love about this is you know, T-Rex pulls up Twilight and is about to eat her magic, and that would have been game. Right there, that would have been the end of it. And then he gets hit by a boulder, which distracts him enough for them to recover. And we see Rarity, whose skill with telekinesis has never been towards strength, barely holding it up. You can see her just straining to throw that. It's not even that big of a boulder, just... And there's something about that just got a grin out of me. Because what happens is we see, once again, that improv on display. Yeah, she threw it, Tom. But we see that improv, we see them get in position, we see them holding back the line, and all of them are like, Twilight, you need to get the frick out of here and figure out a solution to this. Get the solution that you always do. And Discord, you know, fly, you fool! Funk! And then Discord joins the line, too, holding back the boulder. And yeah, she looks despairing. There's a wonderful tension of everything going on, and they're freaking the hell out. The boulder smashes into the screen. To be continued. This is an excellent build-up to a finale. This has done so much so well that it says something that I only have one complaint about it, and it is the section of padding. Oh, I could nitpick, and by nitpick I mean there are things that could have been better, but there's not many things that are in negative territory in my opinion, and really the padding scene is it. Now, normally I like to review these and rate these after we've seen the second section. But I think we're going to do that a little bit differently this time. So how would you review this one in color? I gotta pull something up here, because I've been working on something this morning. Yeah, no, the animation, the sound design, the voice acting, the writing, the scripting. Again, the only true negative for me, the only thing that dips below 0, would be the padding, you know, oh, I wonder what's going on. Don't worry about it section, which I've already complained about and have nothing else to add to. I agree that red's the floor. Absolutely. No question. The color scale goes from black to blue to green to yellow to orange to red to purple. Purple's the top. Black are Lamentations. This is actually the scale I've been using for quite some time on my Star Trek stuff. I just never actually enumerated it on camera. It's just with the MLP stuff and going forwards, you know, I've been open about the scale so that people can share and discuss and give opinions, since after all, a lot of these have been rated not by me, but by us, which I actually rather prefer. I'll talk about that when we get to the finale stream, which will be today. I thought about pushing it to next week, but honestly, this should have happened 3 weeks ago anyway, so we're just going to go and do it today. Oh yeah, there's flawed purple episodes. Where are we at? Where's Nicole? Where is Nicole? There you are. Nicole actually hasn't done that many episodes, but she's had an interesting track record. Her episodes have been in order: red, purple, red, orange, orange, blue, red, yellow, orange. Flawless purple? I don't think there is such a thing, to be blunt. Even Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which is one of the most well-constructed films I've ever seen, has flaws in it. But yeah, no, I've kind of already thought about this. I think this one qualifies as a purple. And that means I need to adjust a few things really quick. Yeah, no, this is really good. Near flawless. As much as I hate to add to my workload, and I already spent 3 hours this morning doing stuff, I could think about that. If anybody, well, no, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to chop off the local recording.